So where I left off last class was, or last video, was talking about creating a Python program, a game in this case. We're doing a number guesser game in the CodeHS sandbox interface. So I'm going to pick up with where I left off last time. You can see on the screen right now, the number guesser, that's where we ended at the last video. So I'm going to pick it up from here and keep going. To start with, I'm just going to run it and we'll remember how it works. So when I run the code, this number 9 up at the top is because I am printing out my random number for testing purposes. So enter a number between 1 and 10. So I'll enter 5. Oh, it's too low. And right now, that's where our program ends. So this is a very hard and kind of not very exciting game because you just get the one guess to get a number correct. So we're going to fix that. That's the first thing we're going to do today. So I'm going to add to my header that I revised it on April 22nd. All right, so what I would like is this section down here, well actually the whole part where we make a guess and then we check that guess. I want that whole thing to happen more than once. I don't want the guess a number part up here to happen more than once. I really just want one, because I don't want the number to change in between my guesses. That would be a really hard game. I just want to be able to make more than one guess. So this section down here, is what I would like to repeat. So I'm going to decide right now that maybe I want 3 guesses. It's a pretty standard number to pick, 3. So we're going to go with 3 guesses. So first I'm going to add some comments that describe what I want to do so that my end program will have those comments kind of already incorporated. So let user make 3 guesses. Great. So how am I going to do that? If I want to make exactly 3 guesses, then one way to do that in Python is with a for loop. So that looks like this. For, and now we're going to name kind of our variable that happens over and over again. I is a really standard one, means kind of index. So this one, and then that one, and then that one, and then that one, something that repeats over and over again. But it doesn't have to be I. You could let it be whatever you wanted it to be. You could name this Fluffy Bunnies, but you would have to type Fluffy Bunnies over and over again. Maybe you get tired of that. I'm going to stick with the letter I because it's pretty standard, and you'll see it in a lot of other people's programs. And I want you to be familiar with what you see. So for I in range 3, okay, so that means it's going to run through this loop that we're setting up 3 times. What it's actually doing is setting I equal to 0 and running through the steps, and then to 1 and running through the steps, and then to 2 and running through the steps. And when it reaches 3, it knows it's done. So it's not counting 1, 2, 3, it's counting 0, 1, 2, and stopping at 3. That won't matter a whole lot for this program, but if you choose to write a program that uses that I as part of your loop, it's important to know that it starts at 0. Okay, so at the end of a for loop setup line, we get a colon, and then we need to indent everything that we want repeated. So all of this stuff that we want to happen over and over again needs to get indented under that for loop line. So we've made just one change. Let's run it and see what happens. All right, so our number this time is 8. So let's try getting it wrong a whole bunch of times. So I'm gonna guess 2, too low. I'm gonna guess 3, too low, 4, too low, and the program is over. So I didn't get a you won or you lost. We could look at adding a you lost line later if we wanted to, but for now, I'm going to leave it the way it is. I'm going to run this again. And now let's try and get it right. So our number is 7. We're going to try too low, or, okay, too low, good. We'll try 9, too high, good. Let's get the number right. 7, you win, yay. All right, so this is looking better. I'm going to try what happens if I get it right before the third guess. Okay, our number is 9, so I'll guess something too low, 5, and now I'm going to get it right. So I guess 9, you win. Oh, it asked me for another guess. That's maybe not what I would want out of a number guesser program, yeah? So I could guess again, and now I could guess something that's wrong again, too low. So this isn't the way you would want a game to work. When somebody wins, we kind of want the game to be done. So I'm going to add, under the you win print line, after we've printed that out, I'm going to add a break. And so what a break is going to do is it's going to signal our program that we want to come out of the loop that we're in and go back to whatever's next in our program. So let's run this again and see how that works. So oh, the number is 9 again. So I'm going to guess too low, 5, and then I'm going to guess correctly, 9. Oh, and I win, and the game is over. So that break worked just like we wanted it to. Okay, so let's think. What else could I add to this game to make it more interesting? Maybe I want to change the number of possible guesses. Okay, so let's do that. Let's let the user determine how many guesses they get. So what am I going to need to do? I am going to need to ask the user, for number of possible guesses. Okay? You guys are hearing my email beep. I'm going to turn that off. Ask user for number of possible guesses, and then instead of letting the user make 3 guesses, we're going to let the user make the number of guesses they requested. Okay, so this will make it a little more dynamic, a little more open to what the user wants the game to look like. So let's give that a try. How would we change that? So we're going to ask the user for more input, and we already know how to do that. It's just like down here when we are asking them for a guess, except maybe this time we'll call it tries, number of tries. Good. And we also want this to be a number no matter what they type in. Or we want it to be a number. We want them to type in a number, but we want to treat it like a number, not a string. And what are we going to ask them? How many guesses would you like? Okay. Now down here in our loop, instead of for a specific range of 3, we now want them to get however many tries they ask for. So I've made 2 changes. I've asked the user for another piece of information, how many guesses they would like, and I have changed my for loop to run the number of times that they requested. So let's see how it goes. So maybe I only want 2 guesses. All right, so my number that I'm trying to guess is 4. I'm going to enter a number between 1 and 10. I will try 5. Too high. I will try 2. Too low, and that's the end. That's all we got. Okay, that's pretty good. I'm going to try again with maybe a higher number of guesses. How many guesses would I like? I would like 5 guesses because I really want to get this number. So guess the number between 1 and 10. 5, too low or too high. 4, too high. 3, too high, 2, I win. Okay, so it did let me go beyond my original 3 guesses. When I got the right number, it did let me, it did win and break out of the loop, which is what we wanted to see. All right, so far so good. So this is pretty good. It's a little more interactive than what we had before. You could probably stop right here. This is an adequate number guesser game, but I want to show you a few more things about Python. And so in order to do that, I'm gonna mess this up and we're gonna, instead of using a for loop, we will try a while loop. So a while loop is going to replace the for loop right here. And it will say while so a while loop, what it's going to do is it's going to test whatever value I put in here. And if it's true, it will run through its loop. And if it's not true, it will stop running through its loop. So I'm going to, for now, set this up as running. And it gets a colon, and everything that we want to run repeatedly gets indented. But I haven't set up a variable called running. So I'm going to set up a variable called running and set it to true. Oops, in Python, I think those are capitalized. There we go. So that means that right now, if I were to run this program, we would choose a random number, print it out, ask the user for a number of possible guesses, and then while running is true, which it is, we would do this over and over and over again. So if I were to hit run code right now, I would crash my browser. That's because this is an infinite loop. It just wants to run until the end of time, or until your browser crashes because it gets mad at you. So this is a problem. I need some way to change this so that eventually running becomes false. So one way that we might do that is instead of this break, running could become false. That means that I will keep guessing forever until I get it right, at which point we will break out of the loop and we'll be done. So let's see what that looks like. How many guesses would I like? I'm going to say I only want 2 guesses, and we'll see what happens. Please enter a number. Let's guess 5. That's too high. I'm very insistent that I really think it's 5. Okay, so I said I only wanted 2 guesses. I have clearly had more than 2 guesses, and this will just keep going until I get the right number, which I think was 2. Let's see, 2. Nope, it wasn't 2. It was 1. Whoops. 1. Okay. And then I win. And then because I won, right, running is now false. So we pop out of the loop. So that part's right. But I don't really want to run forever. I want to run only as long as the number of guesses my user asked for. So let's change what we have here a little bit. Instead of running being true, let's let running start out at 0. And then now we'll check and see if running is greater than tries. Maybe we want to start this at 1. What I'm doing now, plus equals or equals plus? That's plus equals? No, equals plus 1. Here we go. So what I've done now is I started running out at the number 1. And now I'm going to do that the right direction. Now I'm going to do that the right direction. And if running is less than the number of tries, then I will run through this code, I was wrong. I want that to be a 0. So the very first time I get here, running will be 0. And if I put in 3 tries, for example, 0 is less than 3, so that will be true. So I will run through this code. But the very first thing I will do is add 1 to running to let it increase. Okay? This is kind of a way to turn a while loop into a for loop, but I want you to see more than one way to go about making your programs work. So here we start out at 0, we add 1 each time. So on our first time through it becomes 1, and 1 is still less than 3. So we'll go again. And then it becomes 2, and 2 is still less than 3. So we'll go again and add 1, becomes 3. Oh, 3 is no longer less than 3. So we will not run this anymore, and our game is over. Okay. We could add outside of our for loop a let the user know that the game is over. So that would probably be a print. Game over. Thanks for playing. Okay, so we've changed this again. Let's go ahead and run it and see what happens. So our number this time is 1. I am going to ask for 3 guesses. Please enter a number. Let's try 5. Oh, too high. Let's try 2. Still too high. So let's try getting it wrong and make sure that it pops us out of the loop correctly. So let's try 3, because evidently I don't know how numbers work. Oh no, it's letting us keep going. That's no good. We've done something wrong. All right. Running. See, I always get the syntax on this one wrong. So let's try this. I'm gonna stop and try again. I would like 3 guesses. It's 3 this time, so let's 5, 1, 4. Oh, okay, now we got it right. I just had my syntax wrong on the increment of running. So here we said whatever running is, add 1 to it and overwrite back where we started. There is a shortcut way to increment. I just know too many languages at this point and they all get scrambled in my head. We're going to stick with this. Running equals running plus 1. So at this point, I asked for 3 guesses. I got 3 guesses, and then I was told the game was over. This is pretty good. So I might add right here, increment running to track guesses. It's pretty good. And this would be a fairly complete program. It runs through the number of times I ask. It correctly determines whether or not I got the right number. It ends if I win. It lets me know when I'm done playing either way. So this has a lot of good examples of things that you might need in the programs that you're writing. It has kind of more than one loop example, so you can see how those loops work, both a for loop and a while loop. We tried a while loop with just kind of a true and escape, and then we tried a while loop that's acting a little bit more like a for loop right now, but not exactly. So I'm going to let this one stop here.